Hello and welcome to a windy and rainy morning, but we're here at Old Trafford. I'm Casey and this is Stretford Paddock. And you know what? There's a lot of news this morning, so it's worth being here just to tell you what you need to hear. And from start to finish, every bit of news today, it's going to interest you. You're going to be interested. It's peak news. This is actually one of the best days I've had for news in ages, and I'm so excited to tell you because there's some interesting transfers in there. There's some good transfer news. There's some transfer news that I'm questioning myself, but we'll let you decide. I'll tell you what to think, and then tell you what to think about, and then you can have a go. So we're going to start with the big man up top, Edinson Cavani, and this is probably the smallest piece of transfer news, but on transfer news, we're going to say all the same. Obviously, yesterday, Luis Cavani, his father, some comments came out from him that said he was in talks with Boca Juniors and that he would be happy to move to Boca. Now, this has come after Edinson Cavani has obviously had some issues with his contract. Obviously, we signed him for 1 year with the option to extend for a further year, and a lot of fans, including myself, would love to see him sign for that extra year as either a reliable option off the bench or even a third choice striking option, knowing that you have someone who can score goals no matter what if some other people get injured. So I'd love to see him sign a new contract. I think he's been great for United so far. I think he's really brought something to the team. Now, obviously, that might put a bit of fear in some United fans. They might be like, oh, we're not going to sign Cavani. He might be moving. He might be going back to South America to try to finish his career off. But Edinson Cavani obviously came out. He came out on Twitter, he came out on Instagram. He probably went on his old Bebo account and went, I am proud, well, in Spanish, but I can't really say the Spanish, so we're going to say it in English. I am proud to wear this shirt, and a picture of him proudly displaying the Manchester United colours. Now, obviously, that might just be him saying, until they offer me a contract, this is where I'm happy to stay. If they don't offer me a contract, I'll move on to somewhere like Boca. The discussion might have been had because obviously over the last few weeks we've been saying they've kind of been stalling on renewing that extra year in his contract extension. But we'll have to wait and see on that. But at this moment in time, Edinson Cavani is a United player and he's very passionate and very happy to wear those colours. Okay, and now talking about some transfer news coming in, and it's a position that a lot of people are kind of concerned about, probably reasonably so, and that is Pau Torres from Villarreal apparently being a big target for United this summer. Now, obviously, we've been talking about centre-back for a long time. United have needed a centre-back, probably more so now because we're selling all of our depth there. We're looking to sell Phil Jones. We've obviously sold Marcus Rojo. And then the other options there, Tuanzebe has his injuries, Bailly has his injuries, Lindelof sometimes has his injuries with his back problems, so you need someone reliable there. And apparently, the player that's been identified is Pau Torres. Now, Pau Torres apparently has a release clause of 43 million, as every single player in the La Liga has a release clause. But 43 million is pretty cheap in this market for a young, well-respected centre-back. Now, obviously, Barcelona have been linked with him. A couple of other Spanish teams have been linked with him. He's very strong on the ball, and more importantly, he's what most United fans want, a left-footed centre-back. Now, if you've obviously seen release in the press and all that sort of thing with tactics of football, left-footed centre-back's better with a right-footed centre-back. It's kind of just the logic of you don't want two left feet, but in our case, it's two right. It'll help us distribute the ball better, it'll help us get the ball out from the back, and it'll provide us more balance. Because you see sometimes that Lindelof and Harry Maguire struggle to find their feet when they're put on the wrong side of the pitch, and they struggle to find that pass with their weaker feet. And this would kind of negate that. It would allow us to have more balance going forward. It probably would allow us to be attack more fluidly. And I think Pau Torres would be a great signing, especially at that price tag of 43 million, which again in this market is a bargain. Obviously, Villarreal, we signed Eric Bailly from them for about 27 to 30 million a couple of years ago. It's a lot longer now. That makes me feel old. It's about 5 years ago now. We signed Eric Bailly from them, so obviously they have a good centre-back pedigree, and they've always been very decent in the Liga. And he, as I said, he's being touted by some of the best clubs in Europe. So I'd like to see him at United. I think he's one of the better options that we've been linked with, and I think he'd be really good going forward. And now, on to the big story. The one that you've seen on the thumbnail, the one that you'd be really interested in, and that is, surprisingly, goalkeepers. Now, when I read this, I was kind of concerned. I originally read this as going into next season, depending on how Dean Henderson does, depending on how De Gea goes, we'll be looking for another goalkeeper. And I would have thought that was going to be who is going to be the long-term backup to whichever player decides to be number one. Because obviously we've seen that neither De Gea nor Dean Henderson are happy to play second fiddle going into next season. It's kind of now become a scrap between the two of them of who's going to be number one. Obviously, Dean Henderson was in net for the Manchester derby at weekend. He did fantastically well. He commanded his box, and obviously in that second goal, he was fundamental in his quick distribution to getting it to Luke Shaw, and meaning that we could counter and score that second goal, which obviously secured us the points against Manchester City. Now, like I said, when I heard this story, I thought it was going to be United are in for a backup keeper because Sergio Romero wanting to leave. We're going to look for a different keeper. But no, that's apparently not what we're doing. Apparently United are in for another keeper. They're very active in asking about keepers, in looking in the keeper market. And there's been 3 options touted, one more so than the rest, but there's been 3 options that have been touted by Sky. Jan Oblak, who some argue is the best keeper in world football, is apparently on the radar. And I'd like to point out that would not be a cheap transfer. That would be 103 million because that is his release clause and they're not going to accept any less. But let me put it this way. In his first 200 games of football for Atletico, that sign behind me is very scary, so we're going to continue on, but I'm just making out that sounds like it's going to kill me at some point. In his first 200 games for Atletico, he got 112 clean sheets. He has more clean sheets than not clean sheets. That's ridiculous. He's a fantastic keeper, and obviously when we were having those problems with De Gea a couple of years ago, we were like, well, I'd happily sign him then. But now we have 2 keepers who seem to be in very good form, one who's a very young keeper, so I don't really know whether I want to sign him at this point. The other options that were touted are Gianluigi Donnarumma, who again is a fantastic young keeper, and I think the major selling point of Gianluigi Donnarumma, quite, well, pun not intended, is that he would be free going into this summer. And that is, I mean, getting a keeper of his standard for free, I feel like we'd be getting him so no other people can't get him. Obviously, Chelsea have been linked with him. You'll see some other teams probably linked with him going into this window, because a player of his standard for free, especially with how AC Milan are doing, is a really good signing, and I think that might be what they're looking at. Obviously, it's a bit different than Oblak. 102 million I'd like to see spent elsewhere, but if you're getting someone for free and he's happy to compete, I don't want to see De Gea or Dean Henderson leaving or both being put to the second spot, but for free I feel like that's a great signing. And then finally the last name was Mike Magnan. It's a French name, I'm not very sure how to pronounce it, but we'll go with that, of Lille. Now that's probably the less well-known name on the list, but still a name that probably could command some pedigree. Lille are top of League One at the moment, and that is quite due to Magnan's exploits. He's been very good for Lille, he's been very good in net, and he'd still be a very good signing as the wind is ripping around like an absolute tornado here. But yeah, Magnan would be a great signing, and he probably wouldn't be available, or he probably wouldn't be that much if he was available, because obviously the French league, its broadcasting rights aren't as good. They don't always command such a great fee, but we'll have to see on that. I personally either wanted Dean Henderson or De Gea to be the number one. I'd love both of them to say, but it doesn't seem that's going to happen. But I think both of them have their attributes and still have their uses to the team. We'll have to see about that. As I said, the wind's ripping round. We've got a couple of things coming up. We've got the Europa League watch long on tomorrow. We've got the watch long at weekend as well. We're going to have all the videos you'll love to see. Everyone is going to be on the channel talking about what they're good at talking about, which is football. But that is it from us here. We're going to get inside. We're going to get somewhere warm, and we're going to maybe get a brew. So thanks for tuning in. This has been Stretford Paddock. I've been Casey. See you next time.